Welcome to the Dynamics User Group webinar on the topic What should the BC implementation project schedule look like? At the beginning, I would like to tell you several things about me. My name is Jakub Linhart. Originally, I am a graduate of a military university of ground forces as a commander of chemical units. I've been 7 years coordinating development projects in a company engaged in the development, production, and supply of large radiation control systems, especially for nuclear power plants. The main goal for me was managing a large portfolio of ongoing projects. I developed my own multi-project management system, which was successfully used for almost 10 years. And this was my basis for project management and the years when I developed this scope of knowledge and practiced it. Later, deciding to delve deeper into business process, I graduated from the Faculty of Economics and began working on ERP systems as a consultant with real experience in production, development, and project management. Today, I have completed a number of larger implementation projects as a solution architect, professionally leading the whole team and working closely with the project managers. What should the implementation project schedule look like and how to manage it? I would like to tell you today important steps and advices for project managers, solution architects, and consultants. Before all, there are 3 ERP acquisition methods we recognize. One of them is pre-configured instance solution box package. Perhaps you know. I know some companies which do that, but this is not what we are focused on today, because pre-configured instance solution is not an implementation project, and the schedule of such implementation or such installation and basic training is very simple. But another type of ERP acquisition method is data transformation. So this is for us the upgrade project. And the third type is process transformation, which means re-implementation projects. There is a difference that data transformation is focused on analyzing the original solution and the current state and changing the platform with minor modifications of the original solution. The process transformation process is focused on process analysis at the beginning, critical evaluation of the business process innovation, and the new platforms are re-implemented or implemented to suit the innovated process. There is some space in between. Nothing is black or white, so the project can be rather data transformation or rather process transformation, but doesn't matter. Both of them are an implementation project, and both of them should be scheduled. And this is what we are today speaking about, how the schedule should look like. From above, when we look at such implementation projects, there are 3 phases we see how the project develops. The first is the pre-sales phase, where you speak 2 hours, maximally 8 hours one day with the customer, and you are trying to understand the basic needs of the customer. And then you write the vision, the scope, and make the indicative offer. This is the first communication with the customer, and no schedule is prepared. You are only tell the customer the date you think which is real to implement some project in the future. The second phase is the analytic phase, where where the process or pre-implementation analysis is prepared, and there are two outputs, which can be process maps, business process and modeling notation, BPNE, MN process maps, or the design solution, which usually is designed in some DevOps or something like this. And at the end of this phase, usually, because this is the last phase, when the customer decides that he would like to start the project, so at the end of this phase must be prepared usually the schedule of the whole future project. So the project schedule is part of this analytic phase. And when the project starts, then start the project management, and the project manager is managing this prepared schedule to make the project go live. So there is another session or webinar from me, which is focused on the basic steps for the process implementation or process transformation projects, and focused on documents which are mandatory to make the proper implementation to be done well. And in this scope of documentation is here the schedule, what we are talking about. So when I prepared the original presentation, I started with all these documents and mandatory steps. And when I started with the schedule, I found out that half of the whole presentation was the schedule. So that's why I have divided these two topics, and why I have the schedule webinar standing alone. Project schedule. The basic, when you start to create the project schedule, the basics or the base thinking should be that the schedule should be built backwards from the date for go live, because usually there is some imagination, the customer wants to start some date, and we should look at this date and start backwards, preparing the whole schedule to see where can we start to be in time according to the imagination of the customer. And sometimes we can see we have enough time, sometimes we can see we should start half a year ago, and so on. So this is too important. Why to make it backwards? Because if you make it backwards and as short as possible, which is the second point, then you can argue or tell the customer that his imagination is fine. We understand that, but it is impossible to make simply. And the third thing is to make the project schedule as flat as possible in terms of capacity consumption. So we would like to prevent any risky peaks, like just now all the developers should develop, just now all consultants or testers should test, just now every customer's employee should test only the solution or learn something. These peaks are usually dangerous. They are quite a big SIP, which the customers perhaps could not swallow, and so on. So this is the third dimension, to make as flat as possible the project schedule, to let all the capacities and customers, employees make only something during the whole life of the project. For this flattening, we developed two tools which can help us. One of them is prioritization of tasks. Second one is process after process planning. Prioritization. I will tell it in the scope of user stories and their tasks, but doesn't matter on which methodology your planning is based. But priority one are all user stories tasks or anything which are required for core process validation. So they must be processed by the start date of the acceptance tests. For example, if you are implementing Business Central and there is a part when the invoice should be posted, then the posted invoice is the invoice is posted should be user story which is of priority one. But for example, the print report of such invoice should be or could be priority two because we can make the acceptance tests. Everything in your accounting is okay. You know it will work, and just now we can focus only for the output, only for the layout of the invoice, and this can be priority two, which means it is necessary for go live. So it's still impossible to make a go live without priority two tasks, but they are not priority one. We can validate the process without this. But then we will see later, you should manage this priority two task very well in the cut over plan, which will be meant later. Priority three are all tasks which can be implemented after go live. So everything what is not needed for go live should be priority three, because everybody needs enough large project to be as small as possible, because everything more than is important is only risk for possible delay and for some it makes heavier everything for the users, for developers, for everybody to make something more, which can be a risk for the priority one and priority two tasks and user stories. The second tool is process after process planning. Process after process planning means that there are on all projects there are several processes which make the whole picture. And in these processes, usually there is a logical sequence. For example, on my example, I have process number one, product management. Without existing product, I cannot, or item in the terms of, for example, Business Central, without item which I create within the product management, I cannot purchase, I cannot sell, I cannot see anything on eShop and so on. So product management should be usually on the first place. And this is closed process. It has its start and finish. So you can implement and develop this process alone and give it to the customer, and then you can start with the purchase process, sell process, production process, which needs to have something purchased. You cannot sell anything you don't have, and at the end is the shipment process, because you need to have anything produced, and you should have the sales order and so on and so on to make the end of all of this, so which can be the shipment. For example, there are many and other scenarios. You know, your projects, any project can differ, but the main idea is planning process after process in the logical sequence. What does it mean? It means that at the beginning, I focus on the process number one, and I should I should make detailed schedule for this process, for this one part, which usually looks like this on the picture. This means for the whole time there is a process parameterization. Process parameterization for me means that I prepare the model environment, preparing, for example, the first items and the data, starting with assignment of first user stories to the developers. They start to develop and realize these priority one tasks. When they finish, consultants are testing, and every what I do within the parameterization and should be done in the future operation environment, I should do it there too. So releases are after the validation from the customer. Releases are made, everything is parameterized and so on. And when I finish everything what is important for acceptance tests, so priority one tasks, then I start with internal process validation because I have everything, and I will simulate the tests from the customers and test if the whole process is prepared to be given to the customer. If yes, then I can make training and submission of the process by the customer. So I can give the process the customer, here it is, it works this way and so on, and then the customer process tests can be started. This is because we would like focus on the most important. So we have priority number one, we have process number one at the beginning and the logical sequence of core processes of the customer. And so just now everybody knows, for example, if you are using in DevOps agile planning, that just now tasks assigned to user stories priority one should be at the nearest first sprint and scheduled at the first time. Then you can plan another later. But you just now know what is the most important you should focus on. The second thing is that you can flatten capacity utilization. So just now I am giving all developers user stories priority one and nothing more. Later they will get either priority two or priority one of second process. You can consider what is just now more important for you according to the management of the schedule. But this is the decision you can make if you are thinking this way. And so on, the project is approaching and flowing to the end, to the go live. The third thing, what it is good for this way of planning is shortening the duration of the project, because I can plan everything as short as possible at the beginning. I will explain it a bit later. But if I give everything as close as possible together, I can shorten it. Usually, the plan is much wider. It is much longer because there are buffers. I will speak about them later. There are times to plan another projects and so on. because usually every company could have more projects and some teams can be involved in more projects and so on. So this is that the project is usually planned longer, but if you use this type of planning, you can just now tell every man, every hand will work on this project, and just now everybody will in this sprint make on priority one and priority one task of these were two processes, and just now I'm shortening project because every hand is focused just now to work on this project. So this is process after process planning, and this is how it can look like in the breakdown. So of course you have to manage all the small parts you see here. So the priority one tasks of process number one, priority one tasks of process number two, priority one tasks of process number three, then the priority two tasks, and so on. Training, internal tests, training of the customer, then the customer test. But you can see how flat it can be and how much can you shorten the whole project, and that there is for the priority one there is almost none overlap of the capacities, because here is the developer for priority one, here works developers for priority one, here on the process number three for the priority one, and so on. And you can manage it to fulfill the scope of the project. I know very many of projects which were scheduled and managed in the way that all custom modifications should be prepared before the first contact with the customer, before any training, any other uh, tasks on the project. And in this method or type of planning, you can simply mathematically see how long the project could be, because at the beginning you have to assign all developers to start to make all custom modification. Doesn't matter which priority, doesn't matter which process. Usually you want from them to make everything, but usually they need to wait for the previous projects which are logic or processes which are logically on the previous or prior sequence, and when the project develops and the processes are done, the project can change or the scope can change, or some ideas about how the later process should be solved can change. And we really know such things like you needed from the developer to do something, and later the process changed and they had to redo this. So there were more costs of time, effort, and money to make things again. And of course, customers don't want to pay it. So typically it can be, for example, when our consultant would like to make some reports. First, they wanted reports, which is, according to me, quite a mistake, because reports are some outputs and should be priority two, as I told, and should be made at the end after the process is clear. So they told the developer make reports for sales shipment. So the developer made reports for sales shipment. 4-5 months later, process changed, and there were no sales shipments. There were warehouse shipments, and every report had to be changed. So this is what I'm speaking about. Another negative effect. Instead of that just now everybody is in-house working. Just now the effort is here. Customer is boring, waiting, a bit nervous. When we get the first thing, we don't know, because in the process after process, you will quite easily give him the first touch with the system. You can start to teach him the first things, and he feels something is going well, something happens even. And in this, they are quite nervous. And then you will tell him, finally, we have it. 3 months later, usually, we have it. Come on, let's start the training. And just now, every your employee must be 1 month involved, absolutely, totally in the whole process. They have great mess. It's quite a short period because there is pressure from managers to be in time with go live. But the development was 3 months, 3 months longer. So I think everybody knows these effects, and I think in the process after process planning, you can avoid this and plan all of this much better, and really one step after another, which is very important. This is the mathematical comparison of both methods. You can see that the process after process planning could be 3 times shorter. Could be. But I can never make the upper schedule shorter. Even there are the same capacities, but on the upper I will make sudden large volumes of work on special types of our employees, so developers, consultants, then on customer and his users and so on. But the second one I can stretch. Of course, I will stretch this project. I will make it longer. But if I want, I can give there more capacities and make it more quick. Especially if something happened and I need, when the project is coming later, I would like to give greater effort and more capacities and focus just now more hands on this project. So this is the effect of process after process planning, which we really tried just now many times in real life, and I have to say it works really well, much better than the old school projects. And still I see, even in our company, time to time, the projects were with waiting of all customizations, and they still are the same. Still there are really big delays in the go live and in every milestone of the project. So just now we finished with almost all processes. You can see that the acceptance tests start somewhere here. So I gave to the customer process number 1, process number 2, and just now I am finishing process number 3, and I will tell the customer, okay, we have finished these first 2 processes. You can start with acceptance tests, and then after the other processes are finished, you can continue on your scenarios in acceptance tests. And I taught or I spoke about acceptance scenarios, and this is the second most important document of the project management, because the first one is the solution design. Solution design is something like your DevOps and user stories and epics and features, which means what has to be done to make the solution done, to have everything to start go live. Just now, we have acceptance scenarios, which should make a timeline for the customer. What everything must be valid, which every scenario must be valid to go live. Yes. So this is usually validating not the technical user stories, but this is validating the original process. So if you make at the beginning a process analysis and make your process map in BPMN, then these scenarios should be focused to validate these processes, of course, with the developed tools. So you gave the customer some platform, you made some customizations for them, and just now they should use this platform and it can be more platforms, because just now we live in the integrated era where there are more platforms like Power Platform, Dynamics 365 Felt, Business Central, Finance and Operation, whatever you would like to use, uh, uh, SharePoint, another document management system, and so on. So just now you gave the customer these tools which are customized to help them in their business process, and they should validate that their scenarios are fulfilled and that everything is okay. And these scenarios should be designed by an architect, because he is the person, the solution architect, because he is the person who knows about customers' processes, but who knows details about the technical infrastructure and technical design. So he should be the first who will write these scenarios. And they are based on control document. So on control document is the solution design, but at the time. So the implementation went live, and some processes could change. So of course, at this moment when I'm preparing the acceptance scenarios, I will reflect everything what changed. I will not stay in time backwards when it all begins and make the scenario. So I don't want to prepare them at the beginning of the project. No, when I am starting to be prepared to give this process to the customer to test it. Uh, so then when the architect starts, because he has the most most upper point of view, then he will give it to the consultants, to the whole team who cooperates on this project with him, and they then can oppose it, fill some other ideas or scenarios they see, and then when it is prepared from the whole team of you as a vendor, you can give it to the customer, and he can complement it, approve, oppose, of course, and give there many more scenarios he sees, because you know, for example, that the solution should be valid for all his scenarios, but he knows really well what should he test. Every variant of or combination of items, variants, customers, business process, specialties, and so on. You know how complex usually customers are thinking. What is important, the person who tested his part is responsible for that part, and this should be the communication person with the customer and help him during testing. So after you have the timeline, the scenarios, which the architect can give the project manager, and project manager can manage it. So just now architect can help, can give advice, anything, but just now it's about customer and project manager to manage it, and about consultants help the customer users with these tests. So in this phase, customer must plan and organize these tests. Usually they are not for 3 days. Usually they are for months. And if you are using the process after process planning and the SIPs are big enough to be swallowed, then you can really, during the half or 2/3 of the duration of the project, one after another, test all the processes and organize it during the time, because of course the customer needs his users to make their own job. Not only they are not focused just now, they don't stop and work on this project only just now. They need to make their work, and to this work they have to try something new in some new system. Oh, visions of my managers, yes. So this is this is how it works. And this is why we would like to give it one step after another. And of course, architects and consultants are here to provide assistance. Most important is the acceptance. This is where the project manager will make some pressure. So tell us if your processes are okay. We need to know it to have our head free for another things, and we need to know if it is valid with reservation that do not prevent go live. So you can make in some help desk, for example, some reservation or tickets or something, and they will be solved. But these have priority 3. You can start go live without them. But most important and most focused must be the whole team of developers and consultants when there are invalid tests. So something doesn't work, it's critical, and it has to be solved as soon as possible, of course. So this is the tool for the project manager and for the customer, how to go through this timeline of scenarios, which is really important part of the go live process. And at the end of the project is the cutover plan, which leads to go live. Cutover plan has 2 parts. The first part is the go no go decision, because the go no go decision can move the go live the go live line several times, somewhere later in the time if needed, of course, because there are some prerequisites which has to be fulfilled to make the go decision. These prerequisites usually are that the acceptance scenarios are passed, so that we know that the process is valid and we can start. Second one is that the master data migration is validated. So, for example, you have almost all item cards moved from the old system to the new one, customer cards, vendor cards. We will speak about it a bit later, because as you have seen here, the next step is data conversion and migration, but you have count on it in the cutover plan. So master data migration validation is second important prerequisite. The third one is that is validation of test migration of transaction data. What does it mean? That means that when you are going live, you have several hours to switch from the old system to new system. You have stopped the old system, export all the transaction data, which usually means initial stock, and you have to move it from the old system to the new system, and it should be the same in the accounting in the old system and in the new system, and so on. So before go no go decision, you can plan it 1 month. We will again speak about it later, but there is enough time to test it and to learn how to make it in several hours later when it is important. So this tells us that the people who will make it later in several hours tell you, we have tested it, we know how to make it, we know everything, we are really prepared. And the fourth part is validation of the cutover plan itself. So it means that the other tasks and every task of the plan itself is prepared. So this is the checklist, what everything has to be done to go live, and not only go live, but there are some things after go live, especially in the first months, which has to be made. So this is before go no go. If we make the go decision, then there is the transaction data migration, usually those several hours we have spoken before, and other tasks to switch to a live operation, usually especially if there are integrations to e-shops, external warehouse management systems, and other external platforms. There are a lot of tasks which must be done, but there can be even because to the transaction data, we count the unfinished orders, which must be moved from the old system to the new one too, and so on. So all of these steps should be defined, and some checklist is created. And again, everybody, project manager, solution architect, consultants, customer and his users, third parties like the eShop provider, external warehouse management system providers. Everybody should give his task into this cutover plan, because there are really important steps which has to be done, and some should make customer, some should make the provider, some should make we as a vendor of the solution, and so on. And then it's live operation. So integrating platforms has to be definitely redirected and must operate. Consultants make live operation supports. There is migration of transaction data and initial state that can be performed in the first days and weeks, like some what data, bank data, and so on. And of course, automatic jobs should be set up. So this is go live, and the last of part of the schedule is data conversion and migration, which can be done by you as a vendor, by the customer, by some specialist which can be hired only for this, but the labor which has the work which must be done is the same for anybody who does it. So from this we have three data types: parameterization data, master data, and transaction data. Parameterization data are one-time setup data, like currencies, payment methods, shipment methods, chart of accounts, and so on. And this small amount of data which usually is not moved technically with some special tools, but they can be usually for the first time set up manually, and then, for example, only copied from the test environment to the future operation production environment. So this is this type of data. Then so somebody has to care about this data, but it's not real migration. Real migration is migration of master data and transaction data. Master data are basic data to which transaction data is then acquired. So usually this is usually a large amount, like items, customers, vendors, contacts, and so on. and the transaction data are data representing the initial states, typically initial stock, including costs, unfinished orders, as we told in the cutover plan, and part migrates are after go live, so like bank statements, balance of suppliers, customers, what entries, and so on. And data conversion and migration schedule is quite long, and it's really not easy. And sometimes customers think that we have some magic button which will convert everything in a second, and this is I use this presentation to explain them how many work is about that and what everything has to be done to get the data from the old system to the new one. So we tell them that they have to export, convert, and migrate the first sample of master data, because you have to start with samples, because if you make mistakes, then you cannot work with 40,000 of items. Yes, you need several items to start to build the to export the sample from the old system, prepared import structures, convert the exported data to the import structures, then import from these import structures data to the test environment and show if everything or look if everything is okay, validate these samples and correct everything, because of course there will be mistakes made and many times usually. So and if you finally manage the test samples, you will start with conversion of all master data. So just now you are trying to get there all for 40,000 items, and of course you will find out that some types of items has another problem, and you have to learn how to manage it again for the future final data migration. Then you have to import them in test environment and validate the whole data, because the final tests of the test scenarios couldn't be made on some sample. You need really the majority of your data to test the final scenarios. And if you have all, for example, item cards, just now you can make the export, conversion, and migration of the test sample of transaction data. So you are trying, you can stop, archive and stop the original system data for some fixed period, look to the accounting, look at the states on the stock, and then you can make a copy of future production environment and try to export the data from this fixed copy of your old system, prepared import structures, convert the data to these import structures and import them to the test environment, validate this, correct this, and finally, for example, post all these migrated data to see if the numbers of on accounts on the old system and in your new system are the same, that the stock is okay and the same, and so on. So this is another part. During this testing, import of master data into production environment is done. So the final item cards are migrated, and of course, if they are changed or if they are created new in the last part of the project, in the last month, for example, you have to set up the process to get their addition of newly created data. you can tell people if you create it in the old system, you have also created it in old, or you can set up some change log, and then according to this change log you can migrate the rest of the data and so on. So this is how it works. And finally, this is the go live part. Here is or not go live, but before go no go decision and go live, where we export, convert, and migrate the transaction data in those hours at the end of the project in the go live phase, and validate them and start go live with new converted data. So this is how we look on the project schedule with the best practice we have. It's quite another than the traditional point of view. Perhaps some of you make it this way or have another ideas. If yes, we are really curious about your ways and your experience, and let us know. We will be glad, and perhaps the next session will be better with new experience tried on our projects, and we can develop too, all of us. And how such schedule should be done, for example, in Microsoft project. If you want to have some Gantt chart to discuss it with the customer and with the project manager on the customer's side, is that here can be the analysis phase. Here can be the core processes, which can be represented by epics in your DevOps and so on. Here can be planned the data migration, here those acceptance tests, and the cutover plan. And for example, here can be some next stage after go live, the priority three things which or epics which are planned for the next stage for after go live. And to this, this is how can be planned. For example, the one process of this process after process planning, and the tool how we use the buffer to have these processes in the cascade one after another. Because we have some time to make customization and configuration, then some time for handing over the process to the customer, and then customer tests. And here is the buffer, which is on one hand helping us to make the cascade. On the second hand, you can use it to really protect this process implementation with some buffer. So we have 40 more days to finish it in time still. So usually the buffer of the last process is shortest. The buffer of the first is can be very large, and this is the basic tool how to plan the process after process schedule. Of course, this part can be insight for example, if you are agile planning in the DevOps, can represent some sprints and part of DevOps tasks and so on. But this is the lower level. This what we are looking at is the upper level, which is important for project managers. So planning buffer, very important tool. So thank you very much for your attention, and perhaps see you soon on some next webinar.